Hello, welcome to day 3 of our stitch along for the Easter pattern. We did day 1, transferring the pattern to the hoop and prepping your hoop. Yesterday we went over flosses and stem stitch and satin stitch. You see, I didn't quite finish this here, but that's okay. And then today we are going to be working on this leaf right here, the middle leaf, and then the far right leaf. They're both going to be in the same color that we were working with yesterday, the darker green, and again with 3 bits or 3 strands of floss. Now what we're going to do here is, I think technically it is a fishbone stitch. But it's generally what I use for filling in my my leaves. I generically call it a fishbone or a leaf stitch, or kind of like a variation of a satin stitch. This is what it's going to end up looking like here. This is and this leaf here as well. Okay, so the way that I do this is I've drawn these lines on the fabric, or that's part of the pattern in the design, but you're not gonna see that. We're gonna be stitching over top of it, so it's basically just a guideline. If you would like, at the end we can stitch these with the, I don't have the lighter green here right now, with the lighter green floss. You can do it over top of the darker green leaf that we're going to create just now. So what I often, or how I'll start, is I'll come up right here in the middle of the leaf, and then I'll go down at the top part of the leaf. So you've got your first stitch. Now come up right next to where you went down, so right there next to it, and then go down through the fabric at the bottom of the line. Now you want to have a slight diagonal going on. Now to create this fishbone kind of braiding pattern, you're going to go back up at the very top to the left of that first stitch line that you made, and then you're going to go slightly down and to the side of that last stitch. So now you have one line here and one stitch going this way and the other stitch going this way. So it's creating somewhat of like a braiding type of effect. So you can come back up to the right side and then down to the bottom. And then you'll just keep working your way down through the leaf, following that drawn guideline. Now, of course, this doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody's stitches are, but that's what leads to the individuality of your piece, what makes your stitching and not my stitching. It's like handwriting. Everybody's is different. There's nothing wrong or bad with it. Oh, okay. Now this is a technique that I start to use to save and conserve fabric or floss. So I think just by habit I went down. So my floss is up here. I hope this makes sense. And I'm just going to come up right next to the line up there and then down here. And then I'm going to come up at the bottom and go down there, up at the top again. I'm still doing this crisscross patterning, but instead of just 1 and 1, I'm now doing 2 and 2. This way, I'll show you in just a minute what happens on the back side. It doesn't really change the effect on the front, but it saves a lot of floss on the back side of your piece. Let's see if I've done it here. Okay, so let's unscrew this. So here is when we were doing one stitching at a time, when we were going up and through, and creating that braiding. But then when I switched to doing 2 and 2 on the back side, it's like that. So it's just little individual stitches side by side and not as much like a satin stitch there. Again, that's just personal preference, and if you're out to try to save as much floss as you can. But since you guys have full skeins in your kits and what you've purchased, you may not need to be so frugal with your floss. Okay, so let's get back to the traditional fishbone stitch. So I came down, and now I'm gonna go up to the other side and just gonna weave it in. So now I'm going down to the bottom, and then I'll go up to the right and down to the bottom, and then up to the left, down to the bottom, up to the right, down to the bottom. So you're just going back and forth, back and forth. I'm starting to run out of the floss here. Okay, I'm just about out of floss. I think I can make one more stitch, ta-da! And then I haven't shown you how you finish your on the back side. One way to finish off a strand of floss or a thing of floss, or a length of it, is you can slide it underneath previous stitches and just kind of hide your end under there, or you can pull out your needle and simply take the ends of the floss that you were finishing off and just tie it off like that. And then you can snip the ends of it, and then it's secure. All right, so I'm gonna get some more floss and then start working on the flowers again, or the leaves again, with this fishbone stick. Okay, so let's do a quick review. I've separated my floss for 3 strands. I've threaded it. Do you remember how we get the knot at the end of our floss? You moisten your finger, you wrap the floss around your finger, the tip of your finger, and then you just roll it off and pull, and then you have a nice knot at the end of your floss. So that's the way that I like to do it. I know there's lots of different other ways, but that's the traditional way that I like to do my knot at the end. So I'm going to put this back in here, and let's pick up on this leaf. Now we're starting to run into this odd shape here. So our pattern of going left, right, left, right, left, right, it's going to alter slightly. We're going to, of course, have more here on the right, so it will become more of a satin stitch when we get over to this side. But if we keep using that sense of a diagonal, it'll look fine. Here you can see the example there, that you can still see the direction and the texture of the leaf. Okay, so we'll start from let's start from the top. So we'll come up here at the top, pull our floss through, come down here to the bottom, or the center part of the leaf. And now we're just going to come right here, right by the flower. And then down there. And then come to the right. down to the middle, over to the left, down to the middle. Yikes. Oh, now I've got a bit of a knot forming there. Just pull that out. Awesome. Over to the right. Looks like I've got the knot now on the back side. Now, since I'm starting to have so much more space here than here, I'm gonna double up my stitches on this side. So I just did 2 going right to left, and now I'm gonna do 1 left to right. And then over here, right to left, right to left, to left, left to right. Oh, I did 2 over there. Oh, well. You know, again, your stitches don't need to be absolutely precise. Now, I kind of did that one far, so I'm going to fill in a little stitch right there. Now, we are getting much smaller in this spot, aren't we? Now, I'm done here. I've met the end of that center kind of line. So my stitches, I'm just going to take along the side or the next to this flower. So I'll come up here on the right side of the leaf, and then I'll just start coming along the edge of the flower. And here is from the left side. Whoops, I kind of did the wrong thing there, but that's okay. Here to the right, down, and then up on the left. Since there's just such a small space here, I'm just gonna fill this in with little straight, and making this almost like a satin stitch here at this little corner between these 2 petals. Yeah, right there. And then I'll come over to this side and do the same thing. Now, if you still want to have somewhat of that kind of braided-y sort of textured effect to the fishbone, you can kind of come on the inside a little or overlap those bottom stitches some. I don't know how important that is. I think as long as you maintain the direction but it pretty much turns into a satin stitch at this stage of the game. Maybe not quite as precise as a satin stitch, but again, you're just filling the leaf. Along the edge of that flower petal. Now, I don't know if these real-time stitching is that helpful or useful for you. Please let me know. If you like seeing me stitch it along, I don't know if I should be telling jokes or just trying to keep narrating what I'm doing all this time. As I've mentioned to a few of you, this is the first time I've done a stitch along. So I don't know what actually is expected. I do know that some people really love watching the step-by-steps and seeing the variations and the technique that people use and do their stitches. But others are just like, great, got it, done. So yeah, let me know what you'd like. I think for this next leaf, so there we go. We're done with the center leaf with the fishbone stitch, turn into, I guess, a satin stitch. That you can see here, that center vein line, I guess, of the leaf, and we maintained that, and then we just came around. And you can imagine that it still would be doing that behind this flower. And then on the back side, you can see that it turned into a bit of a satin stitch because we were doing one, I guess, side at a time. Whereas over here, this is when I was doing the 2 and 2 to conserve floss. But again, you know, it doesn't matter. It looks the same. At least I think it does. Looks the same on each one. And now I think for this one, I won't do a real-time stitching of this one. I'll do a time lapse. Yeah, so if you have questions about this fishbone stitch and these leaves, shoot me a message. Either on Instagram or here on the YouTube channel, or at my email, which is sparkyframes.stitchery@gmail.com. Okay, just for reviewing's sake, I'll start off here narrating what I'm doing, and then I'll do a quick speed up video for filling in the rest of this leaf. So the first step that you'll do is you'll come up from the middle of the leaf, wherever we want that line to start, and you go down at the top of the leaf, and then you pull your floss through. Now, I always like to go right to left, right to left. You can go however way you want. Again, that's what I love about embroidery, is that it's so individualistic. Excuse me, yours is going to look different than mine, and it's going to look different from anybody else's. And that is fine. That's great. No flowers are the same. No stars, no snowflakes are exactly the same. So we're going to come up from the top, from the right, and go down here at the bottom to on the slight side of that first stitch. So now we've got our 2 stitches. Now we're going to come up to the left side of this, come down, and it's like a slight X. We're going to go right below that bottom line, slightly to the side. So now we'll come up to the top again on the right, and then down to the left of that line, up to the top left, come down to the right. Okay. All right, so I ran out of floss, put that time lapse. So I will finish this off on the other side or off screen. Now I did want to show again the process of doing this fishbone. I changed, you can see on the back here, I kind of changed the technique. It's the same, it creates the same look on the front. But it does look a bit different on the back. And some might be confused, some might not be. But I thought I would just sketch out here on my iPad the process of doing the fishbone. So here's your leaf. We've got our green, dark green thread or floss that we're using. We're gonna come up from the middle of the leaf and do our first stitch here and go down at the top of the leaf, right? And then we take our needle and we come up here to the right of that first stitch, and then we go down right here below that initial line. And then now that our needle is on the back side of our fabric, we can come up here to the left of that line and do a stitch and go down right below, almost to the side of where we went down on that second stitch. So now we have the first center stitch, we have our first right stitch and our first left stitch. And now that our needle is on the back side of the fabric, we can come up here to the side of our second right stitch, and then we'll do our stitch down and go down right below. And needle is on the back side of the fabric. We're gonna come up and do our second left stitch, and then we'll come down and go right below. So it's going from the bottom up, down, below. But now you're underneath your fabric, you'll go up, down, and bottom and below. So it's gonna look the same on the back side of your fabric as it does the front side of your fabric. Does that make sense? The other technique to use is, again, you start the same. You start from the middle of your leaf and you do a stitch up to the top and you go down underneath through the fabric. And then you're gonna come here to the right side of that first stitch and you'll come down. So that essentially is the very same start as to this one. But this is where it changes. Instead of going up to the top again, you're gonna come here very near where your stitch was, where you ended your last stitch. But here you're gonna go up to the side. So you're essentially starting to do 2 stitches per side. And they're gonna be very close to each other. So let's do this again. So you've done your first pull of the floss through the fabric at the middle of the leaf, and you're gonna go up to the top and go down. And then you'll come up here right next to where you went down, and you'll come down to the bottom there. And now that you're at the bottom of this, you're gonna come right up next to where you went down, and now you're gonna come up and do the stitch there, and you'll go down. And then you'll pull your needle up through right next to that stitch, and you'll come down to the center. You'll do a second stitch or come up through the fabric down there right next to where you went down, and you'll go back up right here. And then you'll do another stitch right next to it, and you'll come down. So it's basically doing 2, 2, 2, 2. Now that's backwards. Sorry, I don't think I can draw a 2. Does that look like a 2? Ah, it does, kind of. So that's just a method to conserve floss. If you're fine with it looking like this, then just do it up, down. I mean, experiment. Figure it. I mean, if you have any questions, please get in touch. I'm probably making it more complicated than it needs to be. But the best way to learn is by doing it and seeing which way you like to do the best. And that's how I kind of figured it out. And yeah, so that's it for today. Tomorrow we will be working on, I think, we can finish this right stitch, and then we'll be doing this leaf over here. And then the last day of the week, on Friday, we'll be doing this branch, one of these branches right over here. All right. Please be in touch if you have any questions. Thank you. Bye. Have a good day.